I've got my good buddy Johnny B. Truant. Say hey, Johnny.
Hey, what's up, Chip?
Now, I don't have too many non-cannabis industry people or guests on my show, and you'll hear quite a few more this next year. But Johnny's a writer, which in my mind is synonymous with lots of weed. Is that right, Johnny?
It wasn't for the longest time, but then Sean corrupted me. Sean's my partner and co-author, and eventually I got into weed and I really enjoy it now, but at the beginning it was all stone sober.
I remember Johnny. I remember Sean was like, "Oh, Johnny doesn't smoke so much weed. Oh, I'm the real puffer. Oh, Johnny's just starting to smoke weed. Oh, Johnny likes weed. Oh, Johnny's become a weed head."
Well, Johnny became real interested in weed. I still think that Sean goes through way more than I do, but
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like interested in the science of it and all the detail and nuance. And Sean's like, "Is it green? Okay, I'll smoke it."
yeah. He doesn't ask if it's green.
No. Oh, well, that's true. Is it black?
Yeah, right. How much more do you got?
Yeah.
Right. So, Johnny and my buddy Sean, they were founders of Sterling and Stone, which is a publishing company, and you guys publish primarily ebooks, right?
Primarily ebooks right now for sure, and almost exclusively fiction.
And almost exclusively fiction. They have produced and published hundreds and hundreds of books. Johnny has penned almost 100 books under this publication. And these guys are changing the world with story. I love that tagline, man.
That's the idea anyway. Change the world with story.
Yeah. Tell me what exactly. I gave you the briefer, but tell everybody what you guys actually do.
In terms of changing the world with story or the
Hell
whole
yeah.
enchilada? All right. Well,
Hell yeah.
yeah, okay. So, well, I mean, we're a publisher, but we're not a, a traditional publisher. We're not like HarperCollins or Simon and Schuster or something where we work with outside authors who come in and submit stuff to us. It's more like we're a little family. We call ourselves a story studio. And so when we say we're changing the world with story, that's pretty audacious for right now. But think about the ways that culture has changed. It's changed through stories, trying to like beat people over the head and be like, "Hey man, be more tolerant." Like that doesn't work. You can't legislate tolerance for that example, but you
Right.
can through story. What's in the
For
culture.
instance, smoking cigarettes stopped in
Yep.
many movies. Right.
Yep.
I mean, it's just started to kind of to come back again, but I don't know if that was mandated or if it was just a social norm that began to happen. And fewer people smoke cigarettes today than I believe anyway. That's my perception.
Yeah, no, I think that's all right. I think there was some sort of legislation, but I do know that smoking came to prominence to some degree because people were smoking in popular culture.
Yeah,
They're cool. They're doing
absolutely.
it.
And it used to be that weed, you could show weed a little bit, but it had to be fake. And then it started to be joints. And then like all of a sudden, hey, man, people are smoking joints on television in major movies.
Yeah, I mean, what was that movie that just came out with Matthew McConaughey? Was it Matthew McConaughey? And he was like a Jimmy Buffett style boat guy or something. I don't remember. With Snoop Dogg was in it, and I'm like, there's no way that wasn't all real weed.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Snoop Dogg is going to be like, "Oh man, I got to get into character."
Do you ever hear that Mitch Hedberg joke about Peter Frampton and movie pot?
No. That
Yeah, he
sounds
goes, I
great.
was in a movie and I had a scene with Peter Frampton and we had to smoke pot in the scene, but we couldn't use real pot, so we had to use fake pot. And he said, so I smoked fake pot with Peter Frampton. That's pretty cool. Not as cool as smoking real pot with a guy who looks like Peter Frampton, which I've done way more.
Stories and entertainment, they do change our culture. And we're involved in a mastermind group, Baby Bathwater, right? That's how we know each other. And you gravitated to the sideshow at one of the events. What I mean by sideshow is we were smoking copious
The roof
amounts
show.
of ganja,
Yeah.
right? The roof of the van or behind the shed or whatever show. And that's kind of how we met, right?
Yeah, totally. And have you told people the story about how to, well, it's not really a story. It's more like a truism on how the problem people have rolling joints. Cause that's one of my earliest chip memories.
Oh, you know, I don't think I've actually spoken to this audience on exactly that. You're right. Uh, and you know, sometimes I'm more eloquent on the subject, but rolling a joint is much like any relationship in life. Is this what you're talking about?
No, it was very simple, this advice, but I want to hear this one too.
Well, I don't know if I want to mess it up, man. Why don't you give me the advice for rolling a
Oh,
joint?
it's real simple. So Chip's sitting out, he's got a circle, and it was in Denver, and it was at the outside the patio there. And somebody was asking you, okay, Chip, show me how to roll a joint. Show me the trick of rolling a joint. And Chip sits down and goes, all right. The problem most people have rolling a good joint is they don't use enough weed, right? And he's just like you were dead fucking serious about using the maximal weed to just create a good joint. And you had to like roll this giant chip joint after that. Full on.
Yeah, that actually is rule one, is most people don't use enough weed, right? You have to stuff the joint full of weed. Number two is while you're rolling, you really have to commit, right? You have to commit on that roll, especially on the finger switch, right? When you're switching from right here to right here, you got to just commit and just go for it.
You know, I wasn't totally, so the last time we saw each other, I was into weed, but that was just a different sort of a situation. But like, we haven't spent a whole lot of time together since I, really got into it. And so now I feel like I want that lesson again. I should have asked you when we saw you recently, like, I want that lesson now.
That online, well, we'll do an online joint rolling for sure. I'll definitely put that in my podcast schedule. For all you Real Dirt listeners, join us here in the future. Well, I, Chip Baker, a professional joint roller, be it of ganja or hemp, will instruct all on how to roll the most fantastic joint you possibly can. So join us for a later date of the Real Dirt, where we roll joints.
Speaking of professional joint rollers, have you ever seen those ones where people make these like super elaborate smokable joints?
Oh yeah, like the Star Trek Enterprise or
Right.
AK-47.
That's what I saw was the AK-47.
Yeah, totally. Oh, the first one I saw I think was an AK-47, but there's many others out there. Something I've never really hopped into, but maybe, I don't know, man. Maybe I should think about it. The 3-prong joint, or the dove or the sunflower. I can see all types of things. So the point of this conversation here is I'm Johnny, you are part of the new wave of cannabis enthusiasts that are growing on a day by day, right? You didn't really use cannabis so much before until it became legal. Mm-hmm. And the medical cannabis became legal, and then you started to like realizing how like good it was for you, right? You began to self-medicate maybe, and later on in life you came to cannabis. What was it that kept you away from it?
Well, okay, before I go into that, Chip, I got to ask, why, speaking of joints, why haven't you rolled a joint yet? Because I feel like I was just telling my wife, I said,
we're only 3 minutes in. I got a schedule. I don't smoke.
You got a smoking schedule?
Well, I just asked you my first real question, and so now is when I roll the joint. You just
I got you. I just fucked it up.
And it's okay, but hey, man, it's cool. I got my bathtub full of weed here.
Oh, that's a great use.
Right. And I'm just gonna sit here and roll it up while you tell me the story of like, why Why did it take you such a long time to get involved with weed?
It just wasn't in my circles. I was like, I mean, I was a smart kid in school, like one of those guys who just demonstrated like by the rules, academic smart. So I was first in my class, that sort of thing. And the crew that I ran with they just weren't into weed. It wasn't anything that came up. But then another thing that happened was I didn't drink until I was, I don't know, like well past drinking age too. Like I didn't drink as a kid. And it's
A late bloomer. You're a late bloomer.
well, it's more like I'm stubborn, right? So this, I remember I had this class with a bunch of the real jock types, and every Monday they'd come in and talk about how drunk and fucked up they were at some party. And I just found it so annoying. No, this was high school.
High school. Oh, okay.
I just didn't want to be like them. And I think that stuck, you know?
Well, I didn't start really drinking until I was my late 30s. 36, I think I really started it. And I'd had like, some good times along the way, don't get me wrong, but alcohol wasn't something that I was really drawn to. And I also discovered that every time I drank, my ears would itch, crazy itch. Weird. And so I'm like, oh, I'm allergic to alcohol, right? And so I just didn't drink. But what I discovered when I was about 36 is I was allergic to fermented alcohols like beer and wine. And like I could actually
gluten
drink
sort of thing, maybe liquor. Almost. Yes,
maybe,
no.
I think it might have been the yeast. I'm not sure. But I can drink liquor. And wine, man, I drink a glass of wine and I'm super buzzed. But I can like have a couple of drinks of bourbon and not be like terribly like buzzed. I mean, I'll just like on 2 glasses of wine, I'm wasted, slurring my words. So there's something there with the fermented stuff. But the hard liquor, thanks to my Scottish and dramatic genes, I can digest it. So I was a late bloomer on on alcohol, but I started weed when I was like 13, and I also felt like the alcohol ruined my weed buzz. And then for a long time, I was like, oh no, strictly Ital, just vegetarian living and weed. And so yeah, it took me a while to get into alcohol too.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it was prohibition too, like when it was illegal, that was a much, much harder thing for, not from an illegality standpoint, but just the hassle. Like, what am I going to go find some dealer out there? And, that was sketchy to me. Dealer, the idea of
the streets,
right? Who was doing it? What was in it? That's another thing too. I like that there's some control now, even if it may be annoying for people, because there's some degree of oversight at least,
Yeah, no, oversight's good, man. I've seen people do all kinds of awful things, from literally spray raid and, bug killer for spider mites and whatnot. I've seen people do some awful stuff, but mostly people are really conscious about it. And as soon as they learn the right way, they're generally drawn towards the right way. So you just didn't have access to it. That's all.
Access or interest, I mean, those two together were a deadly combination for my early weed life.
So you met Sean.
Yeah.
And Sean, I know he was immediately like, oh, you smoke weed, man?
Yeah.
Because you're a writer, and I'm sure all writers smoke weed, right?
Right on. Yeah, he said that. Well, and he was he was telling me about, I don't know that I should say this. Well, there's just some other stuff. And I was like, I don't know, that's you, that's me. And the more we worked together, and I don't know, I just got curious, because I'm a curious guy too. Like you introduce a new topic to me and my mind will start working on it. And I just want to figure it out. And eventually I was like, I should try it. I should just try it. I should see what all the fuss is, and totally dug it once I did, which was awesome. I wish I could be smoking right now, Chip. I
did that for you.
Yeah, really, man. I didn't really do it inside I can't do it inside the house. I just can't, because my wife doesn't smoke and my kids aren't into it. or
All right. Well,
don't
hey,
know
well,
about
just be
it.
glad your kids aren't into it, or else they'd be pinching out of your sack, right?
Yeah, no shit. Keep that under
So,
lock and key.
so as you began to like use more cannabis, so it occurred the way that most people do it, I'm sure, is you people would pass it to you and you would occasionally hit it, right?
Well, no, it was real dedicated the first time. Like the first time I wasn't around weed basically at all, except in college. There were some people I knew, but then I just wasn't around anyone. And so when I decided I wanted to try it, I was like, hey, Sean, smoke me out, and we just tried it then. And then came baby bathwater and then passing the joints and the slow indoctrination, all that stuff.
Oh wow! So I was there in the early days.
Yeah,
I
real
remember.
early,
Oh,
real
oh
early. That was
gosh.
probably like the third or fourth time I'd smoked
I
weed.
mean, this is only a couple of years ago now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I
Right?
was
Yeah, yeah. I
40
mean,
before I started.
Johnny is new to smoking weed. Hey, Johnny, how old are you? What are you? Wait,
I
35 or
just
something?
turned 44. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, 35.
Johnny just turned 44, and it was after. I mean, you might have been 41 or two by this when this happened, right?
Yeah, it
You
was
were over
definitely over
40.
40.
Over
For
40.
sure.
Wow, wow. One of the largest demographics, people coming to cannabis for the first time, are 55 and over. Many of them
Hmm.
because they're used to taking pharmaceuticals, and it is causing them problems. There's causing them digestion problems. It's causing them sleep problems. And cannabis is a great way to reduce, lots of medications that people take. Of course, you have to consult your doctor. I'm no doctor. Don't take my word for it. But there's lots of evidence out there of people reducing their intake of pharmaceutical drugs,
Yep.
and increasing completely harmless cannabis, i.e., ganja.
I think I had two main things because I actually didn't even think about that medical, but one of my earliest things was I always slept like shit. And it was like,
Mm,
what can I do to sleep better? And,
mhm,
I tried melatonin and I tried all the sleep hygiene things they say, like no light in the bedroom, no
mhm,
TV. I even got those blue light glasses or amber glasses, I
mm,
guess. Have you
mm.
seen
Oh,
those?
yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
nothing worked, but weed knocked me right out. And I think the other thing was curiosity. Like I already mentioned that, but when there's like I'm into wine a little bit because there's so much nuance to wine, right? Like, the different varietals and some of them are real tannic and some of them are real smooth and big fruit. And it has this depth to it, like you can be a sommelier, which there's only a handful of the like top tier ones. And weed's the same way, like all these different cultivars that do different things and what is the entourage on this one different from on this one. And just all the different ways it can be consumed, like the idea of like, because I have a science background. So when I hear, oh, you got to decarboxylate your weed before infusing it with an oil to consumption, because it's like I speak that language and it's like getting to do some chemistry.
Right. Well, did you? I noticed you've been making ganja food, right?
I've made some
Yeah.
ganja food for sure.
Oh, all right. Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, I have a real once I discover that something's possible, I just want to try that if I'm interested in it. And then I just want to explore it as deep as I can. So like, first time I made butter, like I literally made butter, and you actually gave us a butter recipe, but I don't know if you remember, but I think you were a little baked at the time and the recipe
No,
was
it
like,
just seems unreal. My recipe. That's all. That's all. Stick a half a pound of weed into a pound of butter. Add some water.
well, but I think you also knew a lot of steps that Sean and I didn't. So you just wrote the highlights and we were like, well, what do we do?
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, I don't know if this is like a thing for new people coming to weed, but it's not that there's not enough information out there in the world. There's too much. And I was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
so which butter recipe do I follow? Or for that matter, like, what's my opinion on this growth style versus that growth style? And how's this weed making its way to me? And so I just kind of found a recipe and tried it. And it was okay. It was all right.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it was all right.
Well, I think next time I'm just going to go, I'm going to go through like the the keef step, you know, and make it from keef.
Make from keef. Okay, sure.
Because you can dose, it feels like you could dose it better that way. It feels a little bit more like an easier infusion, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I that is an easier infusion. I, however, like ganja butter for the full body effect. The when you put extract in it, it's way easier to make. It's way easier to dose. But if you take like a half a pound of good quality trim,
Mm-hmm.
mix it in with just a pound of melted butter, add enough water to float it, and then cook that at like 135 or on low on a crock pot for at least 30 minutes. Strain it, squeeze all the butter out, and then pop it in the fridge. The water and the butter separate. You end up with about a half a pound of butter, right?
Two
And then
sticks.
yeah, and then you can take each sliver and start dosing it how strong you want it to be, right? And technically, a tablespoon or so should be like a dose for 10 people. But I mean, making ganja butter with leaf isn't the math isn't quite there.
Did you said extracts? Do you say making butter with extracts?
Yeah,
Because
totally.
like,
Well, like with bubble hash, or with keef, or with hash, or with any type of solvent or solventless extraction product, right?
okay,
Right. So if you took a gram, say, of shatter, right, and dissolve that into some a fatty product, um you would have 25 to 100 doses of product,
okay.
right,
So
depending on how
shatter
strong you wanted to make it.
shatter is an extract, right? Like that is a
Shatter's an extract.
true, not just a concentrate. So
It's all the same. It's one and the same word. Concentrate, extract. It's the same thing.
see, I learned some different stuff as a chemist. I'm curious if it
It's
translates with weed. I've been applying them.
it's cultural for sure, but
Yeah.
maybe you can educate me on it. But generally, in the legal or regulated market, the governments just refer to it as concentrates.
Gotcha.
Right,
So
and
it's
it's a
almost like a
blanket
legal
term.
designation.
It is, and so that's what people have used. But yeah, like an extract, you would think you were using a solvent or solventless process, to extract a really high quality of THC, CBD, cannabinoids, what have you.
Yeah, that
And
was the understanding I was working on, is what you just said.
right. And then and what would you consider a concentrate then?
Well, I mean, I'm speaking out my ass as a cannabis guy,
Sure,
but
as
as a
a cannabis
chemist, right?
guy, but
So,
from a chemist background.
right, because I actually have a degree in genetics. So, but yeah, so for me, it would be like concentrate. I was taking to mean anything that was, surprise, surprise, concentrated, right?
Oh yeah.
Like kefir hash would be concentrated. But then I would have said extract is something where you were moving the molecule out of one medium and into another and also concentrating it. So like,
Sure.
BHO or butane extraction or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly the way it works. That's exactly the way it works. Just legal definition of concentrate is broader, I think, and that's why they use it.
I was fascinated
Yeah.
when you had your lawyer on and he was talking about like, is a round gummy that's colored orange, is that an orange? Is that a fruit shape? Because you can't do fruit shapes. That sort of thing. Oh man, that was
Yeah, there's so people have the best intentions when they're making the laws for regulated cannabis, but it's just it's so hard to anticipate the actuality or the reality of the laws when they get into place of commerce.
mm-hmm.
Right. And yeah, hey, that law still exists throughout the country, is you can't make edibles attractive to children. They can't be,
Right.
animals or humans, or, so now people use like stars or, marijuana leaves, even,
Mm-hmm.
squares. It's, I shouldn't say it's unartistic. It actually means that people are going to have to break out of the traditional gummy molds and make your own gummy molds, bro.
Have you ever made gummies? Because
Sure. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I want to
totally.
try and make
I make
gummies.
gummies. Yeah, totally. There's some great gummy
Awesome.
recipes out there. We make vegan gummies. We just made some, um, and we have a processing license, so we made some, like, a while back,
Mm-hmm.
and several. It took us a minute to get a good recipe going. We've got a pretty good recipe, and we got a solid product, a shop brand product.
Do you start from tincture, or do you start
When
from?
our gummies, we put keef in it.
Oh
We
wow,
we
awesome.
kind of prefer the
Yeah.
keef. You dissolve the keef in the corn syrup as you're heating it up, and that's how you decarboxylate it,
Oh wow,
right? Yeah, and then
interesting.
just follow your traditional gummy recipe.
Right on.
Pretty easy. Yeah, totally. Fruit leather, any of that stuff works with it too. Um, Wow, fascinating. It's so fascinating, but you know what? It's time to take a small break. So, hey man, we've rolled up a portion of a joint. I'm gonna see what kind of weed I got here, and maybe we'll get a little Canna Olympics going on during the break. So, we'll be right back, folks. Real Dirt with Chip Baker and Johnny Beach. Hey, this is Chip with the Real Dirt. Thanks for joining us today. World's changing every day, and sometimes you can't quite go to your local store to pick up the products that you need to grow your fine cannabis. Well, look no further. Contact us at cultivatecolorado.com, cultivateokc.com. We are continuing to deliver. We have curbside procedures, and we ship all over the U.S. So it doesn't matter if you need a bag of soil or a truckload of soil, if you need a pint of nutrient or a 55-gallon, three-part of cutting edge. We can help you get that to your grow in these trying times. And we're just going to do the best we can to help you guys keep on growing. So absolutely check out cultivatecolorado.com, cultivateokc.com. And yeah, man, keep your head up, keep on growing.
So, Chip, you're in an essential business, right? During the whole coronavirus stuff.
Yeah, we've been deemed an essential business. I mean, we're an agricultural business. Man, medical cannabis has also been deemed as important as pharmaceuticals. It is considered a medicine. And yeah, we're going through the motions, man. We've shut the doors to the store. You have to call in all your orders. There's curbside service. We do delivery. We put stuff in the mail still. So we're really trying to work with everybody to get all their products out. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to our customers and to all the people we work for to be as safe as possible. So we're going through extreme measures, keep everything clean, keep in our social interaction appropriate, and just kind of like eliminate any cross contaminations or chains of contamination. But yeah, man, people need medical cannabis in times like these more than anything else. That's for sure.
So this is going to sound like a joke, but I feel like recreational cannabis should be an essential service. Like that's
Well,
actually not a joke.
no, it's not a joke. And just yesterday in Denver, they passed a ruling that said that they were going to, or said on air that they were going to shut down liquor stores and recreational dispensaries. And immediately that changed. And they're like, no, actually, we're going to let you still go to your recreational dispensaries and the liquor stores, and so, yeah, there was about 2 hours where people were like, what? Oh,
yeah, I feel like there's two major dangers here, and only one is the actual contagion. The other is panic. The way that people are hoarding everything and freaking out, and just general social unrest. Like weed helps you chill out.
Weed helps you chill out. When you're freaking out, sit back and smoke just a little bit of sedating, relaxing weed. Just a little bit. Don't go overboard, because you go overboard in times like these, anxiety might kick in. You know what I'm saying, Johnny?
You want to see how I'm relaxing over here?
Yeah, let's see it.
So I can't, like I said, I can't smoke inside, because because I do have a sploof, right? But you get that side stream smoke, and so I was like, I don't want to go sit on the porch during the interview. So I feel like this might get me kicked off the real dirt, but I got my vaporizer here.
No one's been kicked off the real dirt yet.
Nobody?
No,
what
no
if
one's
it takes
kicked off yet?
This is the Firefly 2, and you're supposed to draw on it like for 20 seconds or something. Yeah, so it'd probably make for a really good interview.
You look like a doucher doing this.
Oh, totally. Like, I totally agree. That's why I don't do it in public.
Right. Well, here you can go.
Yeah, I had a nice joint, but
so Johnny, tell me about weed and writing. This is why I wanted to talk to you, is because I wanted to hear about your perspective of if your writing has changed, or writing style has changed since you started using cannabis more frequently.
I think I can brainstorm on it. So first of all, there's a whole lot of stories here, so I think this is kind of fun. Sean was like, oh, writing on weed is really cool. I can't edit on weed, but I can write when I'm high. And so I was like, all right, I've never tried that. I'm going to give it a shot. And I'm a real analytical sort of writer, like not in a sterile way, but I'm very precise. I'm very articulate. Like I want to make sure that every loose end is handled and stuff. And so when I tried writing, I picked a project that was, if it got fucked up, that it was okay. It was just a little short story that was totally isolated. And I got blitzed, and I wrote it, and it was not the right experience for me. I am not somebody who should actually write on it. But as far as brainstorming and stuff, as far as coming up with ideas, and my dad said once, my dad's a big fan of my work, unsurprisingly, but he's also a fan of weed. And he said, Sean and I have a story called Unicorn Western. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Like, not all of our work is that zany, but that is. And it's about a talking unicorn who's an asshole, and his marshal who rides him, who's, named Clint in a very Western fashion. And there's this whole sequence where they keep hearing about chili in a town that's coming up. Like, it's just all about chili. There's signs about like the chili. It's like chili is a huge part of this culture, this weird town. And we just did that because, I don't know, it seemed amusing. But my dad's like, I need you to ask Sean if when he came up with that, he was smoking, because what the fuck, chili? I don't even remember the answer. But those ideas come up for sure, man.
Right. The little points of the universe that get connected is one of the major things I see with cannabis does, is it allows you to see this interconnectivity in the smallest things.
And actually, that is probably a way I think it has affected my writing, is because I have no evidence for this. I have no idea, but I feel like it's opened me up, for want of a better term. I feel like I'm just a little bit more introspective, and I notice things a little bit more since I've been smoking. I don't mean like while I'm actually smoking. I mean just in life. And I think that my writing has deepened in that way. Like, I'm not actually writing high, but it's getting a benefit from all the other times around it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. It's cumulative effort.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about writing while you're stoned. It's about the inspiration, the
Yeah.
muses that come to you, and the little funny things and the interconnectivity you see to the world. And cannabis is truly great plant with that. Hey, Johnny, we're getting short on time. I feel like we could have had talk 2 or 3 more hours here, but I gotta ask you, man, what if you've got some advice for people who are just getting into cannabis that are kind of in our middle age that don't necessarily know a lot about it? Because we're about the same age. I've been involved with it all my life. You've just gotten involved. You've got some suggestions for people that are interested in smoking cannabis, and you haven't tried it or want to?
I would just say that I think that I was a little weirded out by what was going to happen. You know, like I'm a person who likes control. I think that as people get older, if they haven't smoked before or imbibed in any way, that might be the intimidating thing. Like, you know, I'm used to control. And so now suddenly I'm going to relinquish it. And I think that understanding, getting past that and like, yeah, it's, you may be a little floaty, especially the first few times, but whatever, there's a lot of benefit to be had from that. Like the fact that I could sleep better.
Floating's good.
But yeah, I mean, now I'm like kind of trying to chase that. Like, where is that now? But, you know, it'll help get my mind off things. Like that's what I keep trying to say. Like my wife isn't interested, but I keep trying to kind of nudge her because, you know, if I'm writing, I need a clear head, like to start writing.
Right. Absolutely. Okay.
And if my mind is cycling on something, like I had an argument with somebody and I can't let it go, but I need to stop and get to work, then if I'll just take just one hit from, you know, from a vaporizer or a joint or something, just one hit, it's enough to not make me like, so I can't write, but it'll take me out of that loop. And I think just understanding that it's a versatile tool that you can be consumed in many different ways and you can suit your style and your preferences to your consumption, you know, you can control it more than you think in that way. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Johnny, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate this conversation. Man, you know, I think we're going to have you back because I got several other questions. Specifically about writing and cannabis and your newfound great hobby.
Love of the plant. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I'm a fan.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us. Hey, give us your connections, man. You are Sterling and Stone. Where can we find you on Instagram or on the Facebook, or how does it work?
Well, I'm kind of a curmudgeon on the social medias thing, so sterlingandstone.net. Sterlingandstone.net. Yeah, I actually don't even know. We do have some social, but it's kind of just beginning.
Right. Tell me, what's the name of the story, Time Travel with Ayahuasca?
Time travel with ayahuasca,
or maybe it was actually not time travel. It was apocalyptic ayahuasca.
Oh, that was Invasion involved ayahuasca. He saw the aliens coming through ayahuasca visions.
Yeah. What was the name of that book again?
Invasion.
Invasion.
By me and Sean Platt, Johnny B. Truant and Sean Platt.
Great book. Check it out. You guys are sitting back in such a relaxed environment. This an alien invasion science fiction book involving ayahuasca and travel throughout the U.S. is a perfect thing for you right now.
There you go. Absolutely.
Thanks again, Johnny.
Thanks, Chip.